So the talk this evening, the title of the talk is, I'll just wait till Hi, come in. Welcome. Yeah, the title of this evening's talk is Pointing Beyond, excerpts from the Prajnaparamita. And we're in the series Wisdom Beyond Words. Okay, so this evening I'll be introducing us to the Prajnaparamita literature, the literature around the perfection of wisdom. So in the talk I'll be reading a selection of extracts from the Prajnaparamita texts and attempting to explain them. And after the talk I'll lead us in a little reflection where we can sit and hear some of the texts, and I'll read a little bit of the text in the reflection. Okay, so a little bit of a recap on where we are, we need to kind of orient ourselves before we start on the perfection of wisdom. So we're in a series called the series is called Wisdom Beyond Words, and we're focusing on traditional Buddhist wisdom teachings. So we've heard about Prajnaparamita, which is translated as conditioned co-production, which is a primary teaching by the Buddha, conditioned co-production, or sometimes just called conditionality. And we've heard how that teaching, Prajnaparamita, implies the three marks or characteristics of all phenomena, so the three lakshanas we've heard about. That all things are impermanent, anicca, all things are unsatisfactory or dukkha, and all conditioned things are without a fixed separate self, and Atman. So we've heard those teachings of the lakshanas. And this wisdom teaching, the lakshanas, this is a description of the nature of ultimate reality. So this is the Buddha's description of the way that things really are. And it was taught by the historical Buddha, conditionality, and the three lakshanas. And then last week, Bodhinaga introduced a later set of wisdom teachings, which is an elaboration on the Buddha's original teaching by a great teacher called Nagarjuna. And those teachings are called the Prajnaparamita. So I've written the word there, it's quite a complicated word, Prajnaparamita. So the Prajnaparamita teachings, they're not different to the teachings of the historical Buddha. They're not a different set of teachings, but they're an elaboration of those original teachings. And they're kind of a refocusing. The teachings are contained in a large collection of texts, Mahayana texts, called the Prajnaparamita Sutras. So in this talk, what I'm going to do is give a few short extracts, some examples from that literature, from the Prajnaparamita literature. And I'll try to explain around a little bit of what they're trying to be pointing towards. And then after, I'll lead a short reflection and I'll read some of those lines of text for us to just absorb a little bit, and we can reflect on those texts. Okay, so that's what we're going to try and do. So, Prajnaparamita, it's usually translated as the perfection of wisdom. It could also be translated as the wisdom of the beyond, or the wisdom that leads towards the farther shore, or transcendent wisdom. So transcendent wisdom is probably a good translation, because what these teachings do is they go beyond our usual understanding of how things are. So they go beyond how we usually see things. We see things through a lens of delusion. So we've got our everyday conceptual thinking mind, and these teachings are pointing towards a transcendental truth of how things are beyond that. So they're pointing to the heart of reality itself. So the Prajnaparamita texts, this literature, these wisdom teachings, they're beyond concepts and words. Okay, so we keep hearing this, we keep saying this is beyond concepts, this is beyond words. This points to a truth beyond concepts and words. But what do we mean? So when we say that, we keep saying that in this series, what do we mean when we say that? Because is this just like a cop-out? Are we just going, oh, sorry, the nature of ultimate reality, it's beyond words. I'm really sorry about that. And it's not because of that we say that. So it's so words and concepts come from our everyday understanding. They come from our everyday mind. They come from our unenlightened consciousness, the way our mind works. And the unenlightened everyday mind splits reality into separate things and then fixes those things as being things. And then we hold on to those things as being inherently real and somewhat permanent, and we fix ourselves as being separate to all of that. So that's what we would call dualistic consciousness. It's a mode of consciousness that creates a subject, me, separate to an external object, the world out there. And that's what our current unenlightened mode of consciousness does. It's a mode of perception, and it's a way of experiencing things. And these texts are telling us that that's not how things really, really are. There are no permanent separate things in that particular way. And that dualism is sort of added on to the true nature of how things really are. It's created by our minds. So that's what these texts are trying to tell us. And they're saying that a shift in our mode of consciousness is possible. An expansion, a change in the very nature of how we experience things is possible, these texts are saying. And when we use words and concepts, this dualistic way of seeing things, separating subject and object, we are entrenched on that level in this dualistic awareness, and that's not in line with how things really are. So we can't approach these texts in the usual way that we learn things. We do need words and we do need concepts because we need to know where to start. We need to have right view. We need to know what we're trying to see. What we've been calling in this series the map, we've called this the map. We need a map, we need the words, we need the concepts. But if we want to really engage with these texts, we need to approach them in a different way. We need to go beyond thinking about them to having a direct experience, to a practice of trying to have a shift in awareness, a shift in consciousness, rather than an intellectual understanding of what they're saying. So we need to approach them in a really different way. So how should we approach the Prajnaparamita literature? So I'll read a first extract. The first extract tells us about the attitude that we need to bring to these texts. It's from a text called the Ratnaguna Samchaya Gata. And I'll read the text twice. Okay. So this is telling us the attitude that we need to cultivate. Call forth as much as you can of love, of respect, and of faith. Remove the obstructing defilements and clear away all your taints. Listen to the perfect wisdom of the gentle Buddhas, taught for the weal of the world, for heroic spirits intended. I'll read it again. Call forth as much as you can of love, of respect, and of faith. Remove the obstructing defilements and clear away all your taints. Listen to the perfect wisdom of the gentle Buddhas, taught for the weal of the world, for heroic spirits intended. So this is the opening lines of a text that, according to our founder and teacher, Sangha, might be the oldest of the Prajnaparamita Sutras. And it's telling us that to get anything from these teachings, we need to approach them with the right emotional attitude. So it's an emotional attitude. And this text is kind and it's realistic. So it's just saying, call forth as much as you can. It's nodding towards conditionality. It's saying, do what the conditions allow. Do what you can now, as much as you can, and that's enough. So it's saying we need love, we need respect, we need faith. And faith here is not the usual meaning of faith. It's like an intuitive heart connection. And we need love and we need respect. We need to remove the obstructing defilements and clear away taints. So we're looking to purify our mind. So we need positivity, we need ethics, we need a skillful mind. So that's about the ethical approach to life. And we need a receptive and open mind. We need to listen. So listen to the perfect wisdom of the gentle Buddhas. So it's not something that's going to be shouted at us. It's not going to be forced on us. We have to listen. We've got to seek. We've got to seek this wisdom. And we need a heroic spirit. We need courage, because these texts, they're really challenging texts. So they're challenging our very understanding of ourselves. They're challenging the understanding we have of the very world that we live in. We're being asked to see directly in our experience that everything we know, including ourselves, is impermanent and it's insubstantial, and things have no inherent existence in the way that we think they do. And they can't provide satisfaction or security. So this is challenging. So we need positivity. We need a really strong basis of positivity and courage to look at these texts. Okay, so an important thing is that we need to be able to be receptive, because when we can see things in this way, there is something profound that opens up, a profound beauty can open up. So we need receptivity to see this. So the next extract that I'm going to read, it describes and expresses the beauty of impermanence. It's from a text called the Diamond Sutra. The Diamond Sutra. It's called the Diamond Sutra because it cuts away delusion like a diamond. And this extract, it's fleeting, insubstantial images of things that are very beautiful. So I'll read the extract. So you should view all of the fleeting worlds, a star at dawn, a bubble in a stream, a flash of lightning in a summer cloud, a flickering lamp, a phantom, and a dream. So should you view all of the fleeting worlds, a star at dawn, a bubble in a stream, a flash of lightning in a summer cloud, a flickering lamp, a phantom, and a dream. So this text is describing all things as fleeting, momentary, flash of lightning, a bubble, even as a dream. So this text is telling us that the world that we think is so solid and so important is actually, in reality, it's insubstantial and it's fleeting. It's not inherently existent in the way we think it is, and it's also exquisitely beautiful. So this type of reflection on the insubstantial nature of the world, it's offered as a practice here. So it's a practice. It's a practice to see things that way. It's trying to encourage our everyday mind to let go of clinging on to these transient things, holding things as being fixed. But it's not saying there's nothing, and I'm going to come to that later. It's not saying there's nothing. It's an attempt to open our consciousness out into a profound, immeasurable truth that opens up when we go beyond this clinging and closing and holding on. So we encounter this encouragement to letting go in the mind in another text in the next extract that I'll read. And it's from the Heart of Perfect Wisdom Sutra. So it's called the Heart Sutra. And it's called the Heart Sutra because it's a condensation of the very heart of these teachings, the central teachings of the Prajnaparamita texts, the central teaching of Shunyata. So this Heart Sutra, it introduces us to the mystery of Shunyata, which is a very important concept in Mahayana Buddhism, Shunyata. I'll read the extract. You might have come across the Heart Sutra here at the centre. We chant it on festival days and in devotion and ritual. This is a slightly different translation. The one we learn is for chanting, and this is a different, more accurate translation. The holy Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara was coursing in the deep wisdom that has gone beyond. He looked down from on high and saw only the 5 skandhas, and that they were empty of all nature. Here, Shariputra, form is emptiness, and that emptiness is form. Form does not differ from emptiness. Emptiness does not differ from form. The holy Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara was coursing in the deep wisdom that has gone beyond. He looked down from on high and saw only the 5 skandhas, and that they were empty of all nature. Here, Shariputra, form is emptiness, and that emptiness is form. Form does not differ from emptiness. Emptiness does not differ from form. So these are probably some of the most famous lines in all of Buddhist literature. Form is only emptiness, emptiness only form. So what can we make of that? So emptiness here, emptiness is a translation of shunyata, and this is a very important word, shunyata. So shunyata sums up all the 3 marks or characteristics of existence, all the 3 lakshanas contained in shunyata. So shunyata is saying that all phenomena, here in this quote they're called skandhas, all phenomena are transient. They're lacking in inherent self-nature, and so they cannot give real satisfaction. They cannot be grasped. They cannot be held on to. All things are events. They're not things. They're processes. So that is why all phenomena are beyond conceptual understanding, beyond this dualistic everyday awareness. And we can't describe them in words and concepts because they're processes, they're not things. So it's been suggested that shunyata should be translated as the mystery. So it's really important to say something about emptiness of all things. This is like the snake, that you can't pick the snake up from the tail or the head with a stick. I can't remember which way. But pick it up the right way. So this teaching can be really easily misunderstood. So shunyata, the empty, is saying that all things are empty. But that doesn't mean that there's nothing going on. Obviously, it doesn't mean there's nothing going on. It's not nihilism in that way. So it's not pointless nothingness. So seeing that all things are empty of an inherent nature, that there are no things, there's no fixed separate me, it's said that an experience of this doesn't really result in a nihilistic pointlessness. In fact, quite the opposite, the very opposite is true. It's said that to experience the mystery of shunyata, to course in the beyond our limiting ideas, beyond our limits, it's not nothingness. It's said to be an experience of great bliss, profound connection, and complete love and peace. Because maybe an experience of no separation in that way is what love really is, metta. So it's a deep experience of an unboundedness, limitless, immeasurable mystery and wonder of things, the deathless, the profound meaning and purpose, that is actually beyond our holding to just ideas about me and life and death and the material world and the limited ideas that we have. Things are much more than that. The speaker here in this quote is Avalokiteshvara, the embodiment of compassion. So Avalokiteshvara is a being who realizes the true nature of existence. And he's naturally filled with compassion for all unenlightened beings who don't see this ultimate truth, who are trapped in the suffering of delusion. So Avalokiteshvara is coursing in the deep wisdom that has gone beyond, realizing the nature of reality. So this text is saying that realization comes in deep meditation. It comes in states of deep concentration and very intense emotional positivity. So this profound vision of how things really are, it's not about thinking our way into nothingness. It's not about trying to blot out everything. It's not just about negating the ideas that we've created by our misunderstandings. It's a profoundly positive experience. And it can open up through meditation. It can open up through devotional practice. Okay, so these texts, the Prajnaparamita texts, they're encouraging our thinking mind to expand and let go. And another way that the perfection of wisdom approaches this and tries to do this with the mind is through using paradox. So these texts delight in paradox. They try to baffle the thinking mind, to try to enable this letting go, opening to what's beyond the thinking mind. So, for example, elsewhere in the sutras, we're told that someone who wants to see the wisdom of the beyond, they must engage strenuously with the world. They must engage with the world to help other beings, to help all beings, even though other beings don't exist. And the texts swing. They keep swinging between these two realities. Bodhinaga introduced us to these two realities last week. And the texts swing between them, between relative reality, which is our everyday mind and world as we see it, and the absolute truth of things, the way things really are beyond our dualistic consciousness. And these texts keep swinging our mind between one and the other in an attempt to persuade the thinking mind to just give up on its concepts, on what it thinks it knows, and to try to persuade the mind to let go. So form is no other than emptiness no other than form, and we keep swinging, and we can't understand it. The mind can't understand it. So these texts can be really baffling, they can be really frustrating, and they can be really annoying. According to the most eminent translator of these texts, if they do not annoy us, they're not doing their job. So they are really annoying. Okay, so I'll read my last extract, which kind of demonstrates this paradox. And this is from The Perfection of Wisdom in 8,000 Lines. The Buddha, deep Subhuti, that is a synonym for emptiness. It is a synonym for all dharmas, for form and the other skandhas are deep. How is form deep? As deep as suchness, so deep is form. Have I not described all dharmas as empty? And that which is emptiness, that is also immeasurableness. One cannot properly describe the emptiness of dharmas in words. So yes, that's a bit annoying and a bit baffling. How deep is form? As deep as suchness, so deep is form. Okay, so this is saying something like all things are deep and immeasurable, profoundly beyond concepts. So we can't think about them. We just can't think about them. Never mind describe them in words, we can't. So the sutra uses this nonsense word here to describe ultimate reality, this word suchness, just the way that things really are. Okay, so that's more or less the end of the talk. I'll just end I'll just finish by saying something about traditionally what it means to hear these texts. Okay, so it is said that if someone studies and practices and expounds the perfection of wisdom texts, the Prajnaparamita texts, that means that they've practiced over innumerable lifetimes and they've made great spiritual progress in past lives. They've been taught directly by a Buddha and they've taken the Bodhisattva vow. In fact, traditionally it says that all that is true for someone who reads these texts even just once. In fact, here's just one line of these texts, even just one word, just once. Okay. So now that's all of us. So this is good news. So we have made immense progress in past lives, cultivated great merit, and we're doing really, really well. So we could take that literally, I do, that we've practiced over many previous lifetimes, and that's why we encounter these texts in this life. Because I think, well, why would we come across this? It's pretty unlikely, isn't it? It's unlikely to meet the Dharma at all, and it's especially unlikely that we meet the Prajnaparamita texts, the wisdom texts, because they're not bestsellers on Amazon, really. So we could take that literally, and we could take great encouragement and great confidence from that. Or, if we don't want to take that literally, we could just think, well, the fact that we've chosen to come here tonight and hear the Dharma and practice with our Sangha, when there's lots of other things that we could have been doing, then we're doing all right, aren't we? We're doing all right. Like, we're in the right place, we're practicing, and we are making progress towards enlightenment. So that is the talk. Okay, so I'll lead us in a little reflection, maybe about 10 minutes. And I'll just read through a few of the extracts. So I'll just get comfortable and get into meditation posture if you want.